taking control of everything that's under your control. At Grainger, we're here for you with high-quality supplies for every industry, plus real-time product availability and access to experts ready to help. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hi, this is Joe Cordell with the law firm Cordell & Cordell. Divorce can be complicated, especially if children are involved. If you're a father and want to protect your role in your children's lives, remember Cordell & Cordell. We've helped men with matters like these for 30 years, and we'd love to help you.
Online at CordellCordell.com, 317-322-0122, 101 West Ohio Street, Suite 1250, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46204. Joseph Cordell, licensed in Missouri and Illinois only.
Broadcasting live from the Strike and Spare studios, it's time for the Power Hour with Sami Kincaid, highlighting and focusing on women in sports around the country, from the pros to the amateurs, from high schools to colleges. Call the Power Hour now on the Cure Brand Hotline, 615-844-5600, 615-844-5600. Now here's your host for the Power Hour, Sami Kincaid.
Welcome into Power Hour with Sami Kincaid. I'm Sami Kincaid in the Strike and Spare studio. Calling on the Cure hotline, 615-844-5600. Again, 615-844-5600. And Devlin, I'm happy to see that you're here, alive. You made it through the new year in Ohio. What a game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, that was sad. I mean, thankfully it was on New Year's Eve because I did have fun. I had a great time, even with the loss. Obviously that hurt. Tear was shed. That's okay. But, yeah, you know, I mean, nothing I can do about it now. I gotta just move on, and that's hard.
I was ready to come in and you just to be complete, just smack-talking me today.
No. Oh, absolutely not.
With how Ohio State played Georgia versus.
No, I mean, knowing Ohio State and knowing Georgia, I knew there was a fighting chance. You know, everybody kept saying Ohio State was going to get destroyed. They said the same thing about TCU. You know, and it always ends up being interesting. And you know, I would slander. I would come in here talking smack if we won, but we didn't. So I can't. I have no right to talk smack at all to anybody.
I like that. I like that approach you're taking.
Yeah,
very honorable.
That's the truth, you know.
But what a game! Georgia down by 14 in the fourth quarter, comes back, wins it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I really thought Ohio State was going to take it and be twice. completely. I was not seeing that one coming at all.
They came back from 14-point deficits twice. I mean, it was like watching a basketball game where we just went on runs. It was like a 21-point run, 14-point run, 14-point run, 14-point run. It was.
I mean, if you looked at either game, it kind of looked like a basketball score.
I mean,
was there any defense?
Yeah, I mean, good night. It was ridiculous watching that game. I mean, mind you, it was a blast and it was a great football game, and I mean, it was enjoyable. But yeah, I mean, it was ridiculous. I think there's a room to be disappointed on both ends. You know, Ohio State has room to be disappointed because of their defense. So does Georgia. They gave up huge runs. Both teams did. At the end of the game, Georgia had more points, and it's just as simple as that. And that kick was awful. It doesn't get worse than that.
You have one job.
I mean, it was inside and looked like it was wind. I mean, that's how bad that kick looked.
Yeah, no, it was pretty bad. But I just think it was pretty cool, though. The timing with it hitting midnight.
Oh, my gosh.
Just, I mean, were more people excited about it being midnight or the missed kick if you're a Georgia fan?
100% the missed kick. I mean, that was just, I mean, the fact that it was on New Year's Eve and the ball dropped seconds before the kick happened, that was just icing on the cake for them. I mean, they're most excited about that kick, and I don't blame them. They have every right to be excited about that kick, and, you know, it sent them to the national championship game for, you know, a second year in a row, and likely another win a second year in a row.
Yeah, no, very impressive win by Georgia to come back. And we've talked about how with Ohio State, how I did not think that they needed to be in the playoffs. We talked about it, and you're like, well, you know what? They got it done. They're there. And the fact that Georgia was able to rally in the time that it mattered, they deserve to be there, even though they played awful throughout the majority of the game. Mm-hmm. They deserve to be there in that national championship, and it just really goes to show how if you put in the work the entire time, or have the perseverance, I guess is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that go into that. I think Stetson Bennett's leadership. That guy can buckle down under pressure. I got to hand it to him. I mean, it's not like he's never done that. But on that stage.
Did you hear Paul Feinbaum comparing Stetson to Tom Brady?
No, I'm thankful I didn't.
Yeah, this past week, that's who he was comparing him to, and I would not. Although I am not I'm a Tom Brady hater. It's no secret. Being a Dolphins fan, growing up a Dolphins fan, not a fan of Tom Brady, but I don't know how you compare the two. I do think Stetson Bennett has been very overlooked because of Georgia's defense.
Sure.
But how do you compare the two?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, you can compare traits. You can compare traits to anybody, but I'm not comparing a college hooper to LeBron James. Not doing that. Nobody's doing that. Don't compare anybody to Tom Brady. You can hate him as much as you want, but you got to respect the fact that he is the greatest quarterback of all time.
Speaking of LeBron, I was watching SportsCenter this morning, and they were talking about him. It was an interview with him about how he's supposed to have the most points in history, and they're not even 500. And so how does that really sit with you? I don't know how you celebrate any personal success whenever your team's not doing well.
In my opinion, you don't. Some people are different. Some people people have different thoughts on athletics is probably not the right word, but some people go into their pro debut thinking I want to be the best player of all time. I want to be the best player on the field all the time. Some people say I just want to win championships, whatever it is. But I don't really know. I didn't watch the interview. I don't know exactly what LeBron said, but I think he just wants to win championships.
Yeah, which his answer was, I mean, you can tell he's done quite a few interviews. I mean,
oh my God,
only a couple. And that was another thing that they were saying is it doesn't matter how the team is doing. He's always the first one up to the podium to talk after a game. He's not one to shy away. And he answered it like a complete pro about how, I can't really, it feels weird to celebrate a personal milestone like that because normally I'm the one dishing it to my teammates. I get more excited about them scoring, which I meant to look it up before we got here to see how many assists he does have and see that ratio. But I mean, he answered it like a pro.
He's probably averaging 9 a game right now. I mean, year 20, this guy hasn't skipped a beat. It's ridiculous. But I think in his last 2 games, he's had over 40 points, 9 assists, 9 rebounds. I mean, it's ridiculous. You don't really see that, very often with somebody who's been playing for 20 years in their 20th year. You just don't see it.
No, it's insane to think about. We're going to have on an athletic trainer here in a little bit. And so she works with a lot of athletes and how to keep their bodies in the best shape and healthy. And just the fact that he's been able to do it for so long, it's so impressive.
I mean, I think Tom Brady's the same way. They're both doing this for 20 years
The shelf life of an NFL player is 3 years. 3 years.
And, I mean, they each, because, I mean, they're both the best at their respective sport. That's
debatable.
Up for debate. Yeah, obviously it is. This is me. I'm an Ohio kid, so I'm obsessed with LeBron.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
I should
Akron.
hate Tom Brady. I should because he's a Michigan guy. But, I mean, that guy's a legend to me. And that's like that was my quarterback growing up. And it still is, which is insane to me. But they put millions of dollars into their body every single year just to stay healthy and be on that field or on the court. It's incredible, but they have to do it to stay healthy. And then it just goes to show how far, that personal training or whatever it might be, physical therapy, all of that stuff goes into somebody's athletic career.
Absolutely. And I mentioned it. We're going to have an athletic trainer on in just a little bit with us, Alex Morejo. She's going to be joining us. She is an athletic trainer at Jacksonville University at JU, and she's the assistant athletic trainer for men's basketball, men's golf. So really excited to talk to her, especially with just this past week's events and just how important it is for those athletic trainers, and their role is critical. So really excited to talk to her in just a little bit coming up. We got a little off track there talking about college ball somehow we got to LeBron James.
Little tangent, sure.
Little tangent.
Yeah.
But if you want to call in, talk to us on the Cura hotline, 615-844-5600. Again, that's 615-844-5600. And Devlin, going back to college ball, national championships coming up. Who you got?
I mean, It's hard not to pick Georgia in this game, right? I mean, I went into the Ohio State-Georgia game saying to myself, whoever wins this game wins the national championship.
You did say that on Saturday.
I still stand by that. No matter who won that game wins the national championship, I'm taking Georgia to win it. I don't know if I take the points. I think TCU has a fighting chance right now. I think Georgia's almost a 2-touchdown favorite in this game. I mean, there's a reason for it. They are that good.
Yeah.
TCU does have a fighting chance. And 14 points is quite a lot in a national championship game. I don't really see it being that far. Could it? Would I be surprised if it did? Not at all.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if I'm taking money on this game, I'm not. I'm not taking Georgia's points. That scares me.
Did you put any money on the playoffs?
No, I didn't. So when it comes to championship games or, games of that status, I stay away from it. It's too scary for me, and for good reason. I mean, the expectations of both of these games, they went to the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Not only that, but I have a rule where I don't bet on my own teams. I don't bet on Ohio State. I don't bet on Cleveland. I don't bet
Cincinnati.
on exactly. None of,
I just had to throw that one in there.
I
You're
can't.
Ohio State and Cincinnati.
I don't do it. Yeah, I stay away from that. It's just I need to root for the teams for a reason, and gambling cannot be one of those things. I recommend everybody do that, by the way, but that's my rule.
That's like my rule. Don't work for teams you're a fan of.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't do it.
Yeah.
But going back to the championship game,
Mm-hmm.
there was a quote from Sonny Dykes that I loved. Just this mentality of him saying, well, if you're picked 7th in your conference, there's no way you're supposed to be playing in a national championship. And just the, it's that cocky, don't be cocky, be confident.
Mm-hmm.
And the confidence, how he said it, it was the confidence in it. I loved it.
Yeah. It's unbelievable seeing that TCU's has gone this far. And I think even TCU fans would say the same thing. But, I mean, take pride in what you got. This is the biggest game in program history. No matter what the outcome is, the fact that you got there is impressive in itself. Beating Michigan in the way they did was just as impressive. It is crazy to see that they made it this far. I still cannot believe it. But it's fun to watch, and I think all of America, except for the state of Georgia, is rooting for TCU to win this game.
Yeah, no. Even on SportsCenter this morning, they had a clip from Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg, emphasizing dog.
The man.
And he said he was going to go for the underdog.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, "Oh wait, that's against the dogs."
That's not my name. Yeah.
And so he's even pulling for TCU.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited. I hope that it has as much excitement in this game as the playoffs did.
Yeah. That's what I'm really hoping for here, too. If you go look in the past, I think all but 3 of the national championship games have been multiple possession wins for one team. There's been 3 that I, not off the top of my head, can remember, but I saw a post on it, and I'm just hoping it's not one of those games that's just I just hope Georgia doesn't win by 14 points. I want to watch a good game.
Right.
And I'm going to watch this game, but I don't think it would have the same viewership as an Ohio State-Michigan national championship. I don't. I truly believe that. I'm sorry. And I can honestly...
I would say Georgia-Michigan. That would have had more eyes.
I agree. Actually, I don't think it would have more eyes.
Okay.
I think the ticket prices wouldn't be the same as they are right now. Ticket prices would have skyrocketed if Ohio State-Michigan went to the national championship.
How about this? Somebody from work, they posted on like the big general thread saying $2,500 for each ticket. My buddy bought these. He's now selling them. He didn't realize he was getting married on the same day as the national championship. One, why are you getting married on a Monday?
Yeah, what? Yeah, that's wild.
And then the end of the post said, the beginning of it said he needs somebody to take his spot. And then the end of the post said, she'll be the one at the end of the aisle wearing white. You should be able to find her because he'll be at the national championship.
Yeah, no doubt.
But I don't know why you plan a wedding in the fall.
Yeah, and if you're selling those tickets, don't say the reason why, because people are going to be like, well, you're not going to this game, so you're desperate to sell them, so I can drop that ticket price as much as I want. So if you're selling your ticket.
And that included flight, a $400 bar tab per person. Yeah.
Hey, wow.
Yeah, no. So it was, if you include the flight alone, you're getting those tickets for pretty cheap.
Yeah.
So
what did you think about L.A. announcing that they're not doing tailgating at SoFi Stadium?
How are you not going to let people tailgate?
It's ridiculous. I mean, you have to. That's not the most fun. I wouldn't say that. The game is obviously fun, but
but to get the fans as excited in game,
yeah,
you gotta have some drinks brewing on the outside.
people are going to be tailgating literally right outside of the border of SoFi Stadium just to spite them.
Absolutely. Well, stick with us. Coming up, we will have Alex Morejo joining us on Power Hour with Sami Kincaid. We'll be right back after this break.
Nashville's first curling venue is here at T-Line Nashville. Come check out T-Line Nashville and experience the world's fastest growing winter sport today. Curling is a fun and simple sport that's a perfect outing for friends, corporate events, families, or parties. T-Line also has classic bowling and modern bowling mini games. With over 20 HD TVs, you can come watch your favorite teams and some of the best food and drinks here in Nashville in the large bar and grill area. They also have an outdoor area with a fire pit, and you can't forget the live music. T-Line Nashville is a one-stop shop for a great night out. Located at 106 Duluth Avenue and online at tlinenash.com. You can book your party now or give them a call at 615-439-1024. That's 615-439-1024. And make sure you give them a follow on Instagram and Facebook at T-Line Nash for all the news, events, and updates. T-Line Nashville. Nashville's first curling venue is here.
Douglas is a real Prevagen user and paid testimonialist.
My name is Douglas. I'm 79 and I live in Chicago. I'm a writer, director. I used to be a marathon runner. Now I'm a walker. In the kind of work that I do, you are surrounded by people who are all younger than you. Memory became a factor. As everyone gets older, where did I put my keys? But I had to get help to stay competitive. I happened across Prevagen, and I started taking it. I saw myself having an improved memory, which at the same time, I felt better about myself. I could not be doing what I'm doing today had it not been for Prevagen.
Prevagen, healthier brain, better life. Prevagen is available in stores everywhere. Based on a clinical study of subgroups of individuals who were cognitively normal or mildly impaired, this product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
NFL Plus is here, which means no matter where you are, this is how you football. You can stream live, local, and primetime regular season games on your phone or tablet, 45-minute game replays, and more.
That's how you do it right there.
This is the NFL for every fan. This is football freedom. This is your game on the go. Wherever you are, this is how you football. Go to plus.nfl.com/radio and start your free trial of NFL Plus today. Terms and conditions apply.
We're going to get into our routine with Daily Tennessee Jackpot. You got $1? Let's have some fun with it. Let's get those numbers going. How many are we picking? And 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5. Let's go. All of us Tennesseans are having fun now. Let's play and play.
Work out a win with drawings every day when you play Daily Tennessee Jackpot. Only from the Tennessee Lottery. Game-changing fun. Please play responsibly.
It's a Bill King Show.
Somebody asked me, this ascension of Tennessee football, is it sustainable? I think it is sustainable. Their recruiting ranking school. You can get A-plus personnel to Rocky Top, Tennessee. And the state is now way better than it ever was in its past, producing players.
Weekday mornings beginning at 6 on Sports Radio 560 on 95.9 FM.
Now, This Girl Can, featuring your local female athlete of the week.
Welcome back into Power Hour with Sami Kincaid. I'm Sami Kincaid in the Strike and Spare studio. If you want to call in, call in on the Cure hotline, 615-844-5600. Again, that's 615-844-5600. And I am very excited to be joined by someone I've not talked to in a hot minute, but we crossed paths in Orlando Alex Morejo. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. And whenever with this past week's unfortunate events, you were one of the very first people I thought to reach out to. But before we get into that and just how important the role is of an athletic trainer, let's talk a little bit about you first off, and just why don't you tell the listeners just who is Alex?
So I am an athletic trainer. I've been certified for almost 6 years now. I did a bachelor's at UCF, Go Nice, where I got my bachelor's of science in athletic training. And then I went on to be a graduate assistant at Jacksonville State University, where I got a master's in human performance. And I did another master's at the same time at Indiana Wesleyan in a post-professional athletic training master's degree. And then after those 2 years, I came over to Jacksonville, where I've been working ever since.
And you just mentioned your career path, but you started out, are you from the Orlando area? When did you really decide, okay, this is the career path I want to go?
So originally, ever since maybe I was 5 years old, I wanted to work on cars. I wanted to be a mechanic or some type of car engineer. And then my freshman year of high school, I tore my ACL playing basketball. And I couldn't really afford to get the surgery. So my doctor told me, well, if you rehab it enough and you meet with your athletic trainers and you do physical therapy, you might be okay to keep playing without surgery. So I was like, what in the heck is an athletic trainer? So I asked my coach, and she was like, oh, yeah, like come to the main campus. They can probably do your rehab. And from the first day, I was like, this is the coolest job ever. And so I was in athletic training room pretty much every day, all 4 years of high school after that. And it was one of those things where it was like, I know I'm not going to be a professional athlete, but like to get paid to be around sports or to watch sports every day is amazing. And to be able to make an impact on someone's life in a positive way, like there's nothing more fulfilling than that. And my high school athletic trainers were the best, like the best. I still talk to them to this day. And their genuine love for their job, like kind of fueled me to want to do that. And once I was in the program and now working as an athletic trainer, I can see why they loved it so much. And I'm so grateful that I had them to help kind of guide me and show me kind of the ropes from an early age of what I wanted to do.
Absolutely. And this show is really highlighting women in sports. But you just mentioned another field that is also very male dominant. Why did you want to get into being a mechanic? Sorry, that one threw me for a second. What sparked that love?
So I was raised with my older cousin. He's 9 years older than me. And he, in high school, always worked on cars, worked on his car. He pretty much built a car, a right-hand drive car from scratch. And then my uncle owned a car dealership, and he was a mechanic as well. So I was always with them growing up. So that's kind of all I knew growing up. And I was like, I want to be just like them, and I want to do everything like them. So my family was like, okay, well, at least you have two people to teach you once you're ready.
That's awesome. And I'm pretty sure you were friends with Adrian Killens in college. Did y'all ever talk about cars? That's probably one of my favorite features I've ever done on AK, was about him being UCF fast and relating NASCAR to actually athletic training and the work that he would do in the training room. Did y'all ever talk about cars?
No, we didn't. But he always did talk about like going back home for the races and wanting to be back home around the cars, which is funny.
Yeah, so whenever we were talking about it, and Mary Vanderheiden, who does an incredible job over at UCF, we were talking about how NASCAR, I guess, could kind of be like athletic training, and you have to take the pit stops to get some tune-ups every now and then, and how critical those pit stops are. Since you have that love for cars, do you kind of see that comparison?
Yes, absolutely. There's, sometimes you don't want to come in, but, sometimes you need to. Just just for a quick little pick-me-up or, just to fine-tune one little thing, and it's, a couple times in, and then you're good.
And it's I would say a lot of people, whenever they think that they're going in for training, it can sometimes seem like, oh, what's wrong with that person? Do they have an injury going on? But it really can be just to make sure you're keeping yourself happy or healthy. How would you, what are some of those exercises that you do with some of your student athletes to make sure that they are staying healthy, more on the preventative side?
Yeah, so I work really well with my strength coach. So he does what we call prehab right before practice, just because we have the weight room in our practice facility. And it's just a couple maintenance exercises, for ankle strengthening and quad strengthening and hamstring firing and, just a couple shoulder exercises just to make sure they're maintaining some strength, obviously, because we're in the middle of season. So we want to maintain that strength. And then I do a lot of mobility work with my guys just so that way, they don't get tight and their joints are able to, move, because the more flexible they are, the more they can recover from, a fall or they're able to bend more or jump higher or whatever the case may be. So it's been very good as far as my athletes know, just because they come to see me doesn't mean that they're hurt or that I'm taking them out of the game. It's just so, hey, I've noticed you've been moving really stiff. Let's check your hip mobility. Oh, your hips are pretty tight. Okay, let's do these 5 exercises or, 5 stretches and just get you moving, get you loose. And that's a lot of what I do with my guys that aren't hurt. And the guys, that are hurt, I just make sure to do rehab or something with them 3 times a week just to make sure that all their muscles are firing correctly and stabilizing everything as they need to.
I love that he calls it prehab. That's great. And you just mentioned that your guys are currently in season. I mentioned it at the start of the show, but you work with men's basketball and men's golf, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
And I feel like that's 2 very different sports, but both are technically in season right now, correct?
Yeah.
So how do you work with 2 in-season sports at the same time? I feel like athletic trainers are really, from working in an athletic department, they're really the unsung heroes of an athletic department, the amount of hours that you have to put in. But kind of what does that day look for you having 2 in-season sports right now?
So usually, depending on our practice schedule, but golf usually lifts early, so I'll get here around 7 or 8 a.m. And, their golfers are early birds, so they prefer to come early in the morning. And with them, it's a lot of maintenance work. It's a lot of making sure their back mobility is great. They're able to rotate enough, tight muscles, tight shoulders, make sure their wrist mobility is good and, not painful. And then usually after they come in, I've got a couple early birds on the basketball team. So after they do a little morning workout, they'll come in and just do some recovery, take a nap, and then as weights start, they'll come in and get taped or do the boots or stretches. I have a couple guys doing rehab for a couple different injuries. So they'll come in and do it before practice. And then once practice starts, I have an athlete with a torn ACL. So him and I will pretty much spend the entire practice, just doing rehab and keeping him engaged and all that stuff.
And, whenever you are working with, I'll just flat out say it. It's not very often you have a female athletic trainer on the same bench as, for example, in men's basketball. It's usually you see a lot of men in that role. What has that kind of been like, stepping into that role and knowing hey, look at what I'm doing right now? Yeah.
Having Mary at ECF provided an amazing example because she, the football coaches and the football athletic trainers and pretty much the staff was mainly men. So seeing her just not be intimidated by that and just do her job. She just wants the best for the guys and she wants to be an AT and she just, stuck to her guns and wasn't intimidated and knew she was there for a reason. And so that's kind of the same approach I have. I have a great relationship with my coaches and my strength with the rest of the basketball staff and with the strength coach and with the athletes. So it wasn't very hard for me at all. They kind of, when I started working with men's basketball, took me in with open arms and embraced me. And they have a lot of trust in me. And, you know, they know that I'm here for their best interest and I'm never going to do anything to compromise them, which helps a lot. It makes my job so much easier because they know that if I'm, you know, holding a guy out or like saying something, they know it's serious and I'm not just doing it just because, or I'm not going to, you know, just say a guy's able to go if he's hurt, if I'm, intimidated by any way or anything like that. So it's been honestly it's amazing working with the people that I work with because, you know, they trust me wholeheartedly and just let me do what I need to do to make sure that we are as healthy and, you know, able to have as many guys on the court as possible.
Absolutely. And it sounds like empower and is a good word to use for that too, that they've really empowered you to make those decisions and trust you in your decision making. But again, we're talking to Alenex Morejo. She is an assistant athletic trainer for Jacksonville University. And Alenex, you've talked about how really, I just threw out the word empower, how they really empowered you, but how would you empower somebody else that's looking to get into this industry?
Yeah, make connections, have conversations, walk up to, you know, ATs and just ask questions. For every athletic trainer I've met, I've been able to have great conversations with and make connections with, and it's just mainly about that. Make a connection, get to know an AT. You know, one of the best things I learned was don't take no for an answer. Not in the case of don't accept that. We could call it a failure. No, somebody tells you, no, you didn't get the job, or no, you didn't get a position. Don't just say like, okay, and keep going. Ask why. Why didn't I get it? What can I do better? How would you rate my interview process? Or like, what do you think I can do in the future to, you know, be able to get this job in the future or something similar? I think asking a lot of questions, being open to criticism, is going to get, you know, a young professional or someone interested in this field very far.
Absolutely. We're up against Sorry, Alenex. I was about to say we're up against a break, and I love what you're saying. Yes. Can you stick with us through the break, and we can continue that on the other side? Awesome. Yes. So we're talking to Alenex Morejo right now. We're going to be right back after this break. You're listening to Power Hour with Sami Kincaid.
Located at 5410 Murfreesboro Road in the heart of Laverne, City Slickers is one-stop shopping for all your liquor, beer, and wine needs and has been a multiple winner annually in the Best of Rutherford County voting for Best Liquor Store and Top Wine Shop. Featuring the lowest prices, the best customer service with unsurpassed knowledge, City Slickers offers the largest craft beer selection in Rutherford and southeastern Davidson counties and has beer on tap at its Growler filling station. City Slickers also sells mixers, sodas, snacks, tobacco products, and the Tennessee Lottery, and can place special orders and assist with all your events and even wedding planning. Make sure you follow City Slickers on all their social media or just give them a call at 615-280-7469. That's 615-280-7469. Located in the heart of Laverne, City Slickers.
Are you in trouble with the IRS? Detaxify is the trusted tax relief solution that has an A+ rating with the BBB, 5-star rating from Google, and specializes in the IRS Fresh Start program.
If you have years of unfiled back tax returns or owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, the government has the power to garnish your wages, freeze your bank account, and in some cases, they can now revoke your passport. This is John Zandy, president of Detaxify. Detaxify specializes in the Fresh Start program where we help struggling taxpayers get out of collections or settle their tax debt. If you're being audited audited, or dealing with threatening letters from the government, you may need professional tax relief representation. My team at Detaxify can stop the tax collectors and stop the threatening letters from the IRS or state. Call me now for a free consultation.
Call now, 800-601-7780. That's 800-601-7780. Detaxify offers a 100% customer satisfaction guarantee. Call now, 800-601-7780. 800-601-7780.
As a professional realtor in Nashville for more than 40 years, Richard Courtney is one of the city's top-ranked real estate brokers. He's also the author of 2 books and the real estate columnist for the Nashville Ledger. What does all of this mean to you as a home buyer or seller? Expert knowledge, guidance, and trust. Give Richard Courtney a call today at 615-300-8189. That's 615-300-8189 or online at richardcourtney.com. If you need a staycation or planning a trip to Music City, stay at Bento Living Chestnut Hill. Voted the best boutique hotel in the city by the Nashville Scene. Bento Living is located on the edge of bustling downtown and boasts on-site dining, shopping, live entertainment on the rooftop, and free fitness classes. Come experience Nashville like a local. Visit bentochestnuthill.com to book your Music City vacation today. WNSR Nashville Sports Radio would like to take this time to say congratulations to Greg Poe. Greg is a member of the 2023 class of the Tennessee Sports Writers Association Hall of Fame. Greg Poe has been a standard and staple of Nashville sports media. Congratulations to Greg Poe and the rest of the 2023 class of the Tennessee Sports Writers Association Hall of Fame. From your friends and family at WNSR Nashville Sports Radio. And now it's time to shine the spotlight on this week's coach or player. From college to the pros, this is Shattered Ceilings.
Welcome back into Power Hour with Sami Kincaid. I'm Sami Kincaid in the Strike and Spare studio, calling on the Cure Hotline, 615-844-5600. Again, that's 615-844-5600. And if you were just listening, you heard us talking to Alex Morejo, athletic trainer with Jacksonville University, and she is still with us because the conversation was so good. We couldn't get through everything in that last segment. So, Alex, I'm sorry I cut you off in that last segment because what you were saying was absolutely fantastic, and I think it is so important to ask that why and not just be shut down from getting that no, because you really do get about 100 no's before that yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I love that answer, that piece of advice to give to those that are looking to get into the industry, because it really is a tough one to crack. But once you're in, who you know really matters, and it really helps you out. And just building those connections, I think, is another big piece of it.
Yeah, it is. And the sports world is so small.
It really is. And we were just talking about Mary Vanderheiden. And one thing that I loved from interviewing her at UCF a number of times, but there was one interview that really stood out to me, and it was during the month of women in sports. And she was one of the women in the athletic department that we were highlighting. And I talked to her about being a woman in sports, and she was like, I don't want to talk about being a female in my industry because that's just setting me apart different. I don't want to. She was very set on not highlighting that because she's like, I'm the same as everyone else. Just treat me the same as everyone else. Why are you treating me different because I'm a female? That's going against everything that women want to be recognized for. And I loved that approach. And I think that it's such an important approach to have whenever you're in an industry that is dominated by males, because you got to have that. Hey, I'm just the same. Stop trying to alienate me by saying, oh, well, she's a female or she's a woman in the industry.
100%. I 100% agree with that.
And going on to just from my time at UCF and even working at Tennessee or just being in an athletic department, I said it earlier, you guys are really the unsung heroes because of the hours that you put in, the importance of the role that you play. And I think it really was on display for all of America this past week whenever Damar Hamlin went down, and just how scary that moment was, but just the reaction time of being able to see, that's what I think I saw a lot of athletic trainers talking about, is how they were able to see, okay, read the situation and see, okay, this is a very serious situation, and we're able to perform CPR right then and there. And while it was shocking for a lot of America to see, it's something y'all have to deal with in your job all the time.
Yeah, I mean, and at least with the NFL and in college football, they've got medical spotters up top. So I'm sure, the spotter saw it and called it soon. But yeah, the reaction time is there. I haven't had any cardiac arrest or, any catastrophic incidences where that's happened, but it's sort of like everything just happened. And, you react and you do everything, and then you don't realize how quick everything goes by. Last year I had an athlete just pass out in the middle of a volleyball game, and I didn't realize how fast I'd gotten to her and had her come to. But in the case of Damar Hamlin's, just that whole process of it. I mean, it was 8 minutes of CPR. When we do our recertifications every 2 years, they teach us do 5 cycles, which is 2 minutes long, and then recheck. So in my head, I'm like, they went through 20 cycles of CPR. Like 8 minutes, it sounds like forever. And I can't even imagine what was going through those athletic trainers' minds during that time. That's the worst possible case scenario. For anybody on a team or on a coaching staff or on a medical staff, that's the worst case scenario to happen. A day where the athletic trainer, all they have to do is tape ankles and hand out water. That's a good day. Yeah. A good day is not having to run out on the court when a guy gets hurt. So I can't even, the importance that I think whole process and everything that it brought on the medical staff and the athletic trainers, I think it helped others realize what it is, all that it is that we do, and all that we are capable of doing.
I love that you said all that you are capable of doing, because a lot of times you said whenever it is a good day and you're just taping ankles or using ice baths or ice packs and whatnot, that's what they see a lot of times, but you do have to be prepared for those instances. And I think I saw you retweet it, and it was one of the most underpaid people on the field was the most important person that day, how fast he was able to react. And hopefully, pay is just one way to show appreciation for the importance of your role, but hopefully with the unfortunate events of this past week, people see just how critical and vital the role of the athletic trainer is on that staff. And you mentioned the medical spotter. Is that play a big part in, or how does that communication work? Or whenever you are assessing, for example, how you're talking about the volleyball player that passed out, how do you assess a situation so quickly? How are you trained, or is it that communication from up top? How does all of that kind of play out so that you can assess a situation that quick?
So as in football, the medical spotters looking at everything on the, they have a bird's eye view, so they can see everything on the field. And how they communicate with the medical staff, usually through a walkie-talkie. So they'll give the details of for the medical spotters that I know, they'll give the details of, let's say number 9 went down over on this left hash, got hit weird in the knee. And so that's how the athletic trainers are able to, because there's 11 guys on each side, running around, or however many guys on each side running around. So sometimes it's hard to see that. So with the specific details that the spotter can give, that's how they're able to react and prepare quickly. And then with my athlete that went down, she passed out, was unconscious, and immediately you check for a pulse and breathing. And, she has a pulse and breathing, so it's like, all right, let's get her back to consciousness. So, you do a sternal rub, came to, are you okay? Like, what happened? What did you feel? And in that case, it's like, okay, she's conscious. Now it's safe to transport her. Are your legs tingling, your feet? Did you get hit in the head? Like, what are your symptoms? And it's okay, nothing's showing any spinal or, cranial nerve injury or anything crazy. So now we can move you. And I would say with that process, it was all of like 30 seconds. So obviously volleyball court's much smaller than a football field, but with their fast reaction time and, their fast application of CPR and the AED, that's what saved Damar Hamlin's life. The survival rate of what I'm going to assume is he got commotio cordis, which is just a blow to the chest at a very specific time in the heartbeat, which sends the heart kind of into crazy, let's say, pace or arrhythmia. Any minute CPR is delayed, that decreases your chance of survival by 10%. And if not treated in time, especially with commotio cordis, I think the survival rate is something like 15%. So it's that swift action by, everybody involved is what helped save his life and gave him that amazing chance of survival. And we were having a game when all that happened. So, I get to my phone after our game and I see all these texts and I'm like, what the heck happened? And, I'm reading and I'm like, and, a couple of my friends and stuff that aren't athletic trainers was like, is he going to be okay? And I, once I read how fast the athletic trainers acted and just the administration of CPR and the AED, I was like, he's gonna make it out of this. He's gonna be alive. Obviously, the extent of whatever damage we won't know. But I was like, they acted so quickly that I guarantee he's gonna come out of this alive and be able to talk about it one day.
Absolutely. Very incredible how quickly they reacted. And Alan X, I really appreciate you joining me today. That was just so informational. I really, really appreciate you joining me today to talk about that and talk about your career path. And I look forward to seeing you continue on in your journey. So thank you again for joining me.
Thank you so much, Sammy.
Awesome. Well, again, you're listening to Power Hour with Sami Kincaid. We'll be right back after this.
Are you tired of your current vehicle? Maybe looking for a new or pre-owned vehicle? Hey guys, it's Zach. Hayes Nissan of Rivergate is the best choice for your vehicle needs. Located at 1550 Gallatin Pike North in Madison, Hayes Nissan of Rivergate has been serving the Middle Tennessee community for over 3 decades. That gives you confidence that Hayes Nissan of Rivergate can find the perfect vehicle for your lifestyle and your budget. Their friendly and knowledgeable staff will make sure you are taken care of. I should know because I've seen it firsthand. Every vehicle I've purchased has been from Hayes Nissan of Rivergate, and I love the entire process. Now, I don't want you to forget about their award-winning parts and service department. It has everything you need to get you back on the road. Go visit them on the web at nissanofrivergate.com. They're open there 24/7, 365 days a year. Or give them a call at 615-865-7220. Again, that number is 615-865-7220. That's Hayes Nissan of Rivergate, where your dollar always goes farther.
Attention. If you owe back taxes to the IRS, this message is for you. Congress has passed $80 billion in funding to more than double the size of the IRS. 87,000 new IRS employees means more audits, collections, and penalties. This will make the IRS larger than the Pentagon, State Department, FBI, and Border Control combined. Now is the time to call Civic Tax Relief.
I owe the IRS $37,000. Civic Tax Relief basically represented me against the IRS, and by the time everything was completed, I didn't owe the IRS anything.
Their tax resolution specialists can stop the IRS from taking money out of your paycheck.
With Civic Tax tax relief, they were able to save me upwards of $80,000 that I would have had to pay.
For your free tax relief information, call now. 800-841-0908. 800-841-0908.
I would recommend anyone who has a tax problem to contact Civic Tax Relief.
800-841-0908.
From the big game to the big dance, Bar Lines at the Omni Nashville Hotel downtown is your game day and watch party headquarters. Don't worry about entertaining guests and trying to feed everyone. Sit back, relax, cheer on your team, and let the Bar Line staff take care of you. Grab a Bar Line signature cocktail and enjoy some wicked deviled eggs, or a Bar Line's double stack, and finish it off with some Jack and Coke chocolate cake. Bust your belly and your bracket at Bar Line, located in the Omni Nashville Hotel, 5th Avenue, downtown.
Lieutenant, can you tell us what happened today?
Our officers responded to a crash on I-40 westbound this morning. The driver of a pickup truck lost control of the vehicle, veered left, and went into a ditch.
911, what's your emergency?
We've been in a crash. Please send someone. My fiance is hurt.
A front seat passenger was wearing a seatbelt. She survived without injury. The driver was not wearing a seatbelt and was ejected from the truck. He died at the scene.
Law enforcement writes tickets to save lives. Brought to you by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office.
It's the afternoon stretch with Zach Williams and Bruno Reagan.
Coming off his second straight SEC win, this one at the bank. Clark Lee, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, this is my favorite time of the week to be with you guys, so I'm happy to be here.
If you think that's not going to be on a promo, Clark, you are sadly mistaken,
Clark,
sir.
You just made the haters so furious, so thank you very much.
The afternoon stretch. Afternoon stretch with Zach Williams and Bruno Reagan.
We're checking out the headlines, the highlights, and the stories from the world of women's athletics. Time to go around the hour.
Welcome back to Power Hour with Sami Kincaid. I'm Sami Kincaid in the Strike and Spare studio, and it's not women's athletics, but it is women in sports, and we just had on a very informative Women in Sports Alex Morejo. She is an assistant athletic trainer at Jacksonville University, and it was just so informative and so interesting hearing. She did such a great job of breaking it down for somebody that knows nothing about medical. I get so grossed out by anything medical, know absolutely nothing, and just making it so understandable about how critical that reaction time was for Damar Hamlin's chances of survival. It's just such an important role that athletic trainers play, and it was 100% on display for all of America to see this past week how critical they are.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, for somebody who has no knowledge of medical anything, it kind of puts it in perspective, and you learn a lot. All credit to the Bills medical team, and Cincinnati's as well. Good thing. It's good to hear Damar's doing better.
Absolutely, and I think just seeing, you saw Dan Orlovsky, I can never say his. Orlovsky, I can never say it.
Spot on.
You saw him praying on ESPN, on national TV, just stopped everything they were doing and prayed. You just really saw how it shook everyone.
All of America.
And that's something that, working in local TV, I saw it. There was one time there was a fatal bus crash in Chattanooga that killed, I think it was 6 young kids. And the morning after, I saw one of the first responders in the parking lot of a Chick-fil-A after he had been at the scene all night. And I was there that morning helping with a live shot of where it had happened. And we saw each other right after that at a Chick-fil-A, and we just hugged in the parking lot and cried. And a lot of people they saw it was traumatizing for all of America, but a lot of people don't understand what first responders have to see every single day they go to work. Unless there is, like Alan X was saying, sometimes you have the good days where you're just taping ankles and getting people into ice baths and whatnot. But whenever you're a first responder, you have to see a lot, and that's just so much mentally to deal with.
Yeah, it's unimaginable, especially for me who's never really seen anything like that or been in an environment like that. I got to give credit where credit's due, and it is to those first responders without a doubt.
Absolutely. But you got some big games today. Titans, if they win today, they'll be I saw a graphic.
Division champions, yeah.
And it'll be the first team with five losses that goes to the playoffs.
Yeah, so actually the Jaguars, so they were one of the first teams, I think it'd be like maybe the third, I don't know, to be 4 games or over 4 games below 500 at one point in the season, and they were below 500 4 games, I think 3 times this season. For like 3 or 4 weeks in a row they were. And if the Jags win, they'll be one of those small number of teams to make the playoffs after overcoming a huge deficit like that. And the Titans, there's got to be a statistic for them that I am not aware of, but I mean, they're coming off 7 losses in a row, and for them to make the playoffs, I mean, that'd be absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, the graphic was talking about both of them coming off of their losses being the first team to go in, but I'm excited to see what Josh Dobbs does today. I mean, he did well with a very, very thin roster. So now that he has some puzzle pieces back, curious to see how he does today.
How did he do in Tennessee? Never watched him there.
He was good. I actually had, when I was working a Vanderbilt game this past week, the director's the biggest Georgia Bulldogs fan. And whenever I threw out the stat that Josh Dobbs as a starter is actually undefeated against Georgia, he was like, there's no way. There's no way. Sure enough, he was undefeated as a starter against Georgia. So, I mean, everyone at Tennessee loves Astro Dobbs. So.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
there's a lot of orange jerseys in that Nissan Stadium whenever he's out there.
Yeah. No, it was just a rough time at Tennessee in general. But he did well. He did well at Tennessee. So, but that's it. That's all we have for today. Thanks for joining us on Power Hour with Sami Kincaid. We'll see you again next week. And that's all.
It's time to get you ready for the weekend's biggest sporting events. From the latest line movements, player props, and best bets, we'll help you start the weekend off the right way. It's the Countdown 2 with Grant Paulson and Alex Gold, presented by BetMGM.
5.5 hours from the kickoff of Week 18 in the NFL, 9 hours, 15 minutes from the AFC South Division title game being played tonight, and we are 1 hour closer to the national championship game. Monday night, 9 East time start in college football. BetQL Network, CBS Sports Radio, Grant Paulson, Alex Gold. Watch us on twitch.tv/BetQL, and you can follow us at BetQL app on social. I want to look at the playoff bracket as it stands right now and as it could look after this weekend. What should people be rooting for so that we get the juiciest, most entertaining matchups of the opening round in the playoffs? We'll start in the AFC where everything's really, really jumbled up. And this is now ultra complicated, right? And it's nobody's fault. This was a really difficult circumstance for the NFL. But where we're at now is if any AFC title game between Kansas City, Buffalo, Cincinnati takes place, essentially, it's going to be at a neutral site. The Ravens play the Bengals this weekend. If they beat the Bengals, we're going to have a coin flip to decide a division winner and a host of a 3-6 matchup like a Friday Night Lights scene. So you should be pulling for the Bengals if you don't want the wackiness of a coin flip. But right now, here's how the seeding works in the AFC. The Chiefs hold serve, beat the Raiders. They're the 1 seed. They get the bye. It would set up a rematch, possibly, of Buffalo and New England with a Miami loss and a Bills win. this weekend in a 2-7 matchup. You have a Bengals-Ravens game, which would also be a Week 18 rematch in the 3-6 seeding. And then the 4 versus the 5 is a Jaguars-Titans division winner game tonight, winner against the Chargers, hosting in either Nashville or in Jacksonville. That's what we're looking at right now. Patriots at Bills, Ravens at Bengals, Chargers at Jags, with the Chiefs idle. Start wherever you want to. What would you like to see happen this weekend?
So I think if you're looking at what we know is the outcome now, as you laid out with the adjustments, that most likely in some circumstances the neutral site is going to come into play. If you think it's going to be Buffalo, Kansas City, or Buffalo, Cincinnati, it's pretty unlikely if it's Kansas City and Cincinnati that it goes neutral site. That would require Kansas City to lose and Buffalo to lose and Cincinnati to win. That's the only way that we would see Kansas City and Cincinnati playing each other in a neutral site. I hate the neutral site idea to begin with. So for me, it'll be interesting to follow if Buffalo loses to New England. Now, let me be very clear. I think Buffalo is going to absolutely annihilate New England tomorrow for not only football directly related reasons in terms of who they are as a talented football team, but also the emotional aspect that now I think is extremely uplifting with the great news that we've received with Damar Hamlin and his road to recovery and how emotional it's going to be there in Buffalo. So I think Buffalo takes care of business, but if you're wanting to eliminate neutral sites, how does that happen? Well, that would require Buffalo to lose. That would require Cincinnati to lose to have no chance really of neutral site coming into play. What I'm curious though is that Miami Dolphins game too, Grant. The Miami Dolphins, we know they're going to have Skylar Thompson playing in this football game. They're of course heading in the wrong direction the last 4 or 5 weeks or so. And Miami, if they win that football game, then they're probably in this postseason because I don't believe Buffalo's going to lose to New England. So then you're looking at a 2-7 matchup under this circumstance of Miami versus Buffalo in the opening round of the postseason prior to a potential rematch, as you said, of Buffalo and Cincinnati in the divisional round. So I would like to see Miami still get into this postseason. I don't know if Tua's going to ever be available this postseason, but I would still like to see Miami get in. Because I think Miami versus Buffalo in an opening round matchup, if Tua's available somehow, would be really interesting.
Yeah, so that is the big key here, right? If the Dolphins can win and they play the Jets at home, they're 3.5-point favorites, and as you said, their third-string quarterback, Skylar Thompson, is starting. So no pressure, Mike McDaniel, but go draw up a game plan. I mean, they should be able to get the ball in the hands of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and let them make plays, right? I think the narrative for much of this season for Tua detractors has been he is basically system made and the weapons around him make him look better. Well, I'll tell you what, when he's not there, they're just not as good. I mean, so that is a knock against the folks that don't think Tua is a big part of this. Now, you could point to his 3 picks against the Green Bay Packers and some of the duds that he's had generally after concussions or after injuries, and you could say that he's left a lot of meat on the bone here this year, or else they would have already clinched. But they got to be able to get more out of Bridgewater, who's no longer there, and now Skylar Thompson. Like, this is a good enough scheme with good enough weapons. The Waddle-Hill tandem is outstanding, and that's not the only receivers they have that are good, but it's a really nice opportunity if Skylar Thompson is a passable option to play for a game at a time in the NFL to come out against a Jets team that just got eliminated. I know they're pretty good on defense, but basically with Joe Flacco leading the Jets at this point, if you score 20 points, you should win, right? It's going to be a lot like the game they played last week where they lost a 23-21 game to the Patriots. So I think the Bills beat the Patriots. If the Dolphins win and get in, I do think that would be a way more entertaining back end of the AFC field. 2-7 matchup, Tua maybe comes back, let's say. Now, if he doesn't play, I think it's the Dolphins are cannon fodder regardless, but it at least sets that possibility up. I'm not a huge fan as well of the Week 18 game becoming the Week 19 game in the playoffs, and we would have that potentially in 2 spots, as I mentioned, in the AFC after just seeing these games. You know, the Ravens and the Bengals as a 3-6 could very likely happen. Good news in that game would be it would be a very different matchup if it happens again, because probably, I'm using air quotes, but probably the Ravens would get Lamar Jackson back, although I have no idea what's going on now. A month after he got hurt, he's still not practicing. I know that they had members of their coaching staff this week saying that they expected he would play in the playoffs. The other entertaining matchup there to bring up is that 4-5 game between the Chargers and let's say it's the Jaguars, which is one of the reasons I'm hoping Jacksonville beats the Titans. And I think either one of the AFC South teams, as funny as it is to say, could win a playoff game because the Chargers are also very pedestrian. But the winner of that game tonight on Saturday Night Football here to win the division hosts and might even get into the next round because the Chargers are very beatable. It would be cool to see what Justin Herbert does in his first playoff game.
Well, and Herbert versus Lawrence is way sexier than Justin Herbert
against Herbert versus Dobbs. You don't like that one?
Herbert Dobbs sounds like a terrible sitcom or something like that. I don't know. I don't need that in my life. I think the Chargers, if they're healthy, are going to win whoever they play in that opening round game. If they end up with the 5 seed, which for the Chargers to get the 5 seed, all that needs to happen before they even play Denver Sunday afternoon. If the Ravens lose to Cincy, then the Chargers are locked into the 5 before they even play their game against the Broncos tomorrow afternoon, where we know that the Chargers are now 3.5-point dogs. I think we're seeing the line reflecting the likelihood that either nobody's going to play for the Chargers or they're going to pull starters very early on. Like I really think the Chargers absolutely could go on the road. I would expect them to, as a matter of fact, to go on the road to Tennessee or Jacksonville, get a win. I understand the track record of the Chargers disappointing, but the challenge for them has been just getting the playoffs. Well, they're over that hump. They're in the dance, and they're healthy. So as long as they don't suffer some terrible injuries in the game Sunday afternoon, I think the Chargers will be favorites against either of those teams on the road, and I expect them to win, which then would set up a potential, depending on what happens later today, the Chargers going to Kansas City or Buffalo in the divisional round, depending on how the seeding works out, which would be an interesting third-time Chiefs-Chargers game in the divisional round at Arrowhead.
But help me with this. If the Chargers, who are even in the standings right now with Baltimore 10-6, if the Ravens lose to the Bengals, right, as the 6th seed, then you don't have anything to worry about. They're 10-7, obviously. But wouldn't they still want to not – I guess if you lose that game, you still have the tiebreaker. But in other words, if the Ravens win against the Bengals in Cincinnati and they have this tiebreaker situation, I guess the 3-6 is already sorted out and they can't leapfrog the Chargers to get to the 5 seed, yes?
No, so if Baltimore upsets Cincinnati, then the Chargers, my understanding, have to win to get the 5.
Right. So wouldn't they then? I mean, that game is before their game. So you're saying no matter what, there's one game that matters to them, and then they'll sit their starters. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter. You're in regardless, but I would much rather be the 5 seed playing the AFC South than the Bengals. So if the Ravens were to beat the Bengals, why wouldn't the Chargers then play for keeps in their game?
Oh, I'm not disagreeing with that. All I'm saying about the game is if the Ravens lose to Cincinnati, the Chargers do not need to play their starters against the Broncos. Yeah, that's all I'm saying, because I'm with you. Yeah, you don't want to be the 3-6 matchup and go to Cincinnati. 100%.
No, you're not going to Burrowville.
Yeah. No, not at all. No, the Chargers as the 5 seed, I think, are in a really good spot to advance to the divisional round. And depending if the Chiefs win or the Bills win this weekend or both, whatever, then the Chargers in that scenario go to Buffalo or go to Kansas City in the divisional round. And I would imagine the Chargers, considering how close they play the Chiefs, would love the Chiefs in the divisional round.
All right, yep, we're in lockstep there. So let's pivot to the NFC then. The NFC picture is a little bit cleaner, I would say. So we're not yet sure who the 1 seed is, but all the Eagles have to do is win their game this weekend over the Giants. They're 14-point favorites. Going to get Jalen Hurts back in some capacity, presumably. They get to 14 wins. They're the number 1 seed. The current matchups as of this moment are San Francisco, the 2 seed, would host Seattle, the 7 seed. Funny because no one's talking about the Seahawks making the playoffs, even though they're in it this moment, because as strange as it is, even if they win, the Packers, where they win, would still leapfrog them based on some quirky tie-breaking metrics, which would mean the Packers beating the Lions, Sunday Night Football, winning in, become the 7 seed. If San Francisco holds serve, you would have a rematch of what was a really good game last year to see Green Bay and San Francisco play in the penultimate round, the NFC bracket, when San Francisco knocked off Green Bay on some special teams problems. But that would be your 2-7 matchup. The 3 versus the 6 looks pretty set. The Minnesota Vikings are playing the Bears, 6-point favorites. The Giants are 14-point dogs, nothing to play for against the Eagles. Giants probably just want to hold serve and sit in the 6th spot and hope they get the Vikings, the 3 seed. And then the 4 versus the 5 is almost a certainty. You got the Bucs hosting the Cowboys. The Bucs are the champions out of the South. Dallas, the top of the 3 wild cards in the NFC.
Yeah, let's be honest. That last matchup right there is the one that I can't wait for, because we spent all year talking about the Bucs and their issues and stop waiting for the offense to get figured out. And they're fortunate they're in the NFC South, waiting, and now we know they've clinched it, and they're going to host, as you said, a playoff game, and it sure as heck looks like it's going to be the Cowboys. And how nervous are Cowboys fans going to be to go to Tampa to play Brady, even if it is an offense that's a shell of itself from a year or so ago. So that's the game. I can't wait, just because of the nervousness and the narratives around that game. Also, the implications for Mike McCarthy. If he were to go down to Tampa and lose, there would be a very real and I think warranted conversation about his future if that were to actually happen. So that one's intriguing. And then you laid out the impact with the 49ers and what could happen with the Packers. At this point, I do want Aaron Rodgers to win on Sunday night and get in the dance, because I think the Packers are interesting as a 7 seed. They could really wreck this whole thing in terms of what everybody thinks are potential paths for everybody. In a wide-open NFC where you don't have great quarterback play other than Jalen Hurts, who is coming back from an injury. I think he'll be fine, but we'll see. So that, to me, is a huge scenario where all of a sudden the Packers could go on a little playoff run.
Hey, you think about it. The 1 seed could be going in with a 3-game losing streak potentially. And has lost 2 in a row. And it's just not going to be the same momentum. Then they're getting the week off, especially with a win if they stay atop the board here in the NFC. But, yeah, the game I'm rooting for is the Packers and the 49ers, because I think a Rodgers-led Green Bay at San Francisco, a team that looks like a juggernaut, but we just saw the Niners and Brock Purdy struggle with the Raiders, right? It's not like they can't be had, and we still haven't seen any type of a bottom falling out game for Purdy. Is that possible? I do think the 3-6 game, which we haven't really talked about, if it is Vikings, Giants in Minneapolis, would be fascinating for all the reasons everyone understands, right? Those 2 teams played just a few weeks ago. The Giants, I thought, had a lot of bad luck in that game and lost at the horn on a 60-plus yard field goal. I mean, it was a neck-and-neck game. But on top of that, the Vikings have found ways to win all year, but we all know at 12-4, the record just doesn't look like what that team has been. Some of those losses, 40-3, I think it was,